Hey Bio 20s, I'm back again for another lesson. Today we're going to be discussing the excretory system. So you know, when it comes to kidneys, I'm just trying to find a renal connection. Sorry, bad joke. But we will actually talk about the renal system today. We're going to talk about how the kidneys, the different parts of the kidneys will work to actually clean your blood and produce urine. So when it comes to cleaning your blood, we're going to talk about waste products, and the main waste product we want to worry about is ammonia. So anytime we break something down, like a protein or a nitrogen-based product, an amino acid, ammonia is a waste product that's produced. And it's a compound where nitrogen and hydrogen come together to make NH3. Now ammonia is actually very, very toxic. We can have a little bit in our body, but as little as 0.005 milligrams can kill a person. So it's extremely, extremely toxic. Thankfully, your body is an app for that. It's called the liver. So the liver will actually be able to take 2 molecules of ammonia and 1 molecule of CO2, put all 3 together, and create something called urea, which is about 100,000 times less toxic than ammonia, which is great. So your liver is able to detoxify that ammonia into urea, which makes it much easier for your excretory system to deal with. And the same thing can be done when you break down nucleic acids. You can make something called uric acid, which is another waste product that our body can get rid of. When we look at the excretory system, the 2 things that are doing the heavy lifting here are really both of your kidneys. They're these 2 giant filters, if you will, located at the back, kind of near your, the opposite side of your abdomen there. And what they're going to do is they're going to take blood from the aorta. So this is your main artery here. This is your aorta. And it's going to be pumping blood into the kidney. The kidney will clean the blood, produce urine, and then urine will travel down these ureters into your bladder and then out the urethra. The clean blood will then exit into this is the inferior vena cava. Now going into the kidney, it's the renal artery, so it's going to carry blood into the kidney, and leaving the kidney, we have the renal vein that's going to carry blood out of the kidney. Then if we look closer at the kidney, so if I took a kidney and then cut it in half, here's what it would look like. We have 3 layers to it: the cortex, medulla, and pelvis. We see the renal artery bringing blood in, renal vein taking blood out, and there's the ureter taking urine down to the bladder. Now in terms of the cortex, this would be the outer part of the kidney containing the majority of the filtering units they call nephrons. Things like the Bowman's capsule, the glomerulus, the arterioles would be found here, the proximal tubule would be found here. Then the medulla, which is kind of the inner layer, the middle inner layer. We have the loop of Henle going down into there. And then the very, very inside, the hollowed out chamber of your kidney, that's called your renal pelvis, where all the little tiny tubes join together into a ureter. Now, this is where things get a little bit confusing. This is what we call a nephron. A nephron is a filtering unit within your kidney. Believe it or not, you have about 1 million of these things in your kidneys. So we're going to have blood coming in through the afferent arteriole. It's going to go into this big ball called the glomerulus, which is actually a high pressure capillary. So it's a very high pressure capillary that's going to filter some things. So it's going to move some things into the nephron, but then some things are going to stay in the blood, exit through the afferent arteriole, then join up with the capillary here, out the venule, and then out the renal vein. You'll notice that the capillary is covering the entire nephron. That's because there's going to be a lot of exchange between the blood and the nephron, even after filtration has occurred. Then we go through the proximal tubule at the top, down the loop of Henle into the medulla, up the loop of Henle, back up into the cortex. Then we have the distal tubule, and finally the collecting duct, which is going to join up a bunch of other nephrons together. So when it comes to the first little bit here, the arterioles, these are these small arteries. The afferent is going to carry blood into the nephron. The glomerulus, which is once again a high pressure area, is going to filter the blood. Some things like water and glucose will move out. Other things like blood cells and platelets and white blood cells will stay in. And then the efferent will carry the blood out. The capillaries then surround the different tubules, which is kind of like a big water slide, right? It's going twisting and up and down. And then we get the renal vein carrying that clean blood back to the inferior vena cava and then up to the heart. Okay, and then the Stuff that does get filtered will be collected in the Bowman's capsule. This will be things like water, sodium, glucose, amino acids. Once again, the larger stuff like plasma proteins and blood cells, they're too big, so they're not going to get filtered. And then we're going to end up with what we call filtrate in this capsule. It's technically not urine yet. It's urine once it's gone through the entire process of urine formation, which is a 3-step process. So blood's going to come in, filter, 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 blood's going to go out. Anything left over in this capsule is now filtrate. It's then going to run through the proximal tubule, which is where we're going to reabsorb a lot of stuff we just filtered, down the loop of Henle, up the loop of Henle, and then into the distal tubule, where we're going to reabsorb even more stuff, maybe put some extra stuff in, if there's any stuff we want to get rid of in our blood, and then all these different distal tubules will join up in these collecting ducts. These collecting ducts will join up in the renal pelvis, and then down the ureter into the bladder. So this entire process, going from filtration all the way through the different tubules, this is called urine formation, and it's a 3-step process. And that's what we're going to talk about next time. So with urine formation, the 3 steps involved are filtration, reabsorption, and secretion. So that's what we're going to talk about in our next video. So thanks again for watching, and we'll chat soon.